Hey everybody, this is Unit 3, Video 7. We're going to be working with the quadratic formula. Now the quadratic formula should be a review for you. However, we're going to introduce the possibility of our complex imaginary solutions. So definitely don't skip over it too fast to get to the example problem. So stay with me for a minute. Just to briefly put it out there and remind you, here is the quadratic formula. It is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Now, two things that you'll find your advanced teachers being extremely picky about are whether or not you keep this x equals as you continue. And if you just lose it, it's going to be a problem because notation, extremely important in advanced classes. What are you solving for? Where did this expression without the x equals, where did it come from? And also the value bar here, or the division bar here, must be the entire length of your numerator because it is the entire numerator that is being divided by 2a. And lastly, you cannot just not have a denominator in any one of your steps just because you're simplifying the numerator. So be careful because your advanced teachers are super picky. So we're going to go ahead and try two examples together. The first one is x squared minus 4x equals negative 2. And as you probably remember, we're going to make this in standard form, and we want it to be set equal to 0 in order to start solving for x. So go ahead and move that negative 2 so that we have x equals minus 4x plus 2 equals 0. We will identify our a, b, and c values, and this isn't something you necessarily have to record on your paper, but it's definitely been done in your head. And we'll start solving. X equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 2 all over 2 times 1. We're going to keep that x equals as we continue to simplify, and I've got 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 minus 8 all over 2. X equals 4 plus or minus the square root, we'll do our subtraction, all over 2. And now I'm ready to simplify the radical 8 to be x equals 4 plus or minus 2 radical 2, all divided by 2. And this step is almost the last step, but we are able to reduce the 4 plus or minus 2 radical 2 over 2. I'm able to simplify because all three of those values on the outside of the radical are divisible by the same number. If one of them was, let's say, 7, I would be unable to reduce this any further at all. But because all of them are divisible by a common factor, we're going to go ahead and do so. And that would leave us with 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. You do have the option of putting in the ones where the 2's once were as we actually divided there, but those are optional and completely unnecessary. Your simplified answer is 2 plus or minus the square root of 2. Let's try one more together. So for this example, I'm going to actually choose to move everything over to the right-hand side so that my a term is negative. So I will have 0 equals negative 2x squared plus x minus 4. A equals negative 2, B equals positive 1, and C equals negative 4. Let's get started. X equals the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. And we'll begin to simplify. X equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 32. The 32 comes from negative 4 times negative 2 times negative 4, and I get negative 32 or minus 32 all over negative 4. Now, in your Algebra 1 class, when you reach this point and you recognize that the number underneath of the radical was going to be negative, you knew the answer was going to be no real solutions. And so you were able to pretty much stop your problem at this point. But we already introduced complex numbers to you. So let's go ahead and simplify. I'm able to take out the imaginary 1 that's in there, the negative 1, which is the imaginary number that's inside of that. So this will simplify to negative 1 plus or minus I root 31 all over negative 4. Now some of you, had you moved the negative or the x and the negative 4 to the left-hand side, you would not have these two negatives. And in fact, those two negatives can simplify and cancel. Oops. So if you also have the statement or the answer of positive 1 plus or minus I root 31 divided by 4, that's also an acceptable answer. These two are equivalent because the negatives will reduce here. And that is our final answer. Please try these problems on page 124, numbers 45 to 57 odd, and be sure to reduce all of your answers and all your radicals.